Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this InstaLive talk. I'm going to be turning off the comments so we can see the panels clearly. If you have any questions, please put them in the question box so that we'll get to them at the end of the talk. Thank you. Yeah, this is
better. I'm still...
No, this is fine.
Yeah. That's fine. Oh.
So good evening again. Thank you all for joining us. On behalf of Aroha Montessori Center for Co-Learning and our team Sindhu and Sudha, I'd like to invite you all to this talk today. Aroha is a space for adults and children to engage with and learn from each other in a respectful and compassionate manner. And as part of our co-learning activities, we organize these InstaLive conversations with experts in different fields of Montessori and education and helping the child, basically. So we've had talks earlier as well. So if you go to our YouTube channel, which is Aroha Montessori Center for Co-Learning, you will see all our other talks, the previous talks. Today's talk about nature and education is very close to our hearts. In fact, I think most of you would agree that nature is innately close to all our hearts and minds. We find peace in nature, we find joy in nature. We discover our role and ourselves in it. And when we see children in nature, we see a sparkle in their eyes and you see a calmness in their persona. But somehow over a period of time, we seem to be losing out on our interactions with nature. Nature's kind of slipping away from us, from our day-to-day activities, especially for children in urban settings. So how do we help children find opportunities to engage with nature, to experience it? And what does nature education actually do? Why is it so important? How does it shape us? So to answer these questions and many more, we have with us two very special people today who will help us go through this whole topic of nature and the child. We have Meena Sriram, who's on the screen right now, and Mrishti Raman, who will join us very soon. Meena and Mrishti are a teacher-student pair who have bonded over years through interactions in the classroom and at the farm school. To tell you a little bit about Meena, she's a postgraduate in extension education, a B.Ed, and has a PG diploma in educational administration and a Cambridge International Diploma in teaching and training. She has over 30 years of teaching experience in the Montessori philosophy and a specialized teaching experience with adolescents, that is age 12 to 18. She was part of the first farm school in Chennai, and where adolescents worked on the Erdkinder model of the Montessori methodology. And on this farm, she says there was an emphasis on building executive functions and independent learning. And that is one of her expertise as well, where she helps children channelize their skills and energies and knowledge into taking up social causes and educational causes, so which is super great to have around as a role model for children. She's a champion of social causes herself, and she also enjoys traveling and writing articles on education. She's currently the academic administrator at the Chennai Education Cell, which overlooks the functioning of 87 schools and 9 colleges across India and in Trinidad and Tobago. We are very, very happy to have you, Meena, to talk to us today, and how readily you came on to take on this topic, saying, this is mine, I have to talk to people about this, shows your passion for it. So looking forward to interacting a lot more with you. I'll just introduce Mrishti as well. Mrishti Raman is currently studying in class 12, and she's often described by her friends and teachers as someone who's very, very compassionate and always ready to help anyone in need. She loves dogs, cats, and humans alike, which is a quality. She will join us in some time and talk to us about her farm school experience. So Mrishti, if you're listening to us, welcome. So Meena and Mrishti, thank you so much for being here with us today and talking to us. To start off, Meena will take over to help us understand why nature education is important and how does this impact a child's mind.
Thank you, Nriti. Now that was very long. I was just waiting for it to finish. Because that is not important,
Now the stage is
So
yours.
thanks.
Please take over.
Thank you so much. And thank you to your team also for having allowed me to come and speak with all of you today for this beautiful new discussion. I'm learning here also how to connect and all of that. And before that, before I even start, I want to first thank Abacus Montessori School also, which gave me this beautiful opportunity to work on the farm. And not just the opportunity, but they trusted me with 40 acres of land and 28 children, and all those parents who thought I could bring a change in their child. So I have to thank each and every one of them. Yeah. So thanks to all. Okay, coming to your question, why is nature education important? So my counter question to that would be, what is nature? Where is nature? So I'm sure answers are popping up in everybody's head right now about what is nature, and it's all around us. And in the Montessori philosophy, we always talk about environments, the work environment, the classroom environment. So then the nature is also part of the same environment where we are living.
Yes.
It is extended. It's not inside your room. A child is born in sorry, what was it called? Disturb you? Okay. A child is born in a hospital, let us say, and from there, when the child is in the ICU, just a minute. I don't know why I'm still getting a call. So sorry about this.
No problem.
Because Nritijana had told me, don't disturb mode. I don't know why I'm still getting it. Okay. Yeah. So when the child is born in a hospital and inside the ICU, there's so much of artificial lighting. Nobody can make out between day and night there. But soon after, when the child moves into perhaps a room or the home, then there is a play of the sunlight. Immediately you're in touch with nature. I mean, that is when nature actually impacts, that is the moment. So you don't have to even wait for a child to grow 5 years old or 10 years old or 12 years old. It happens just there. The external nature that is around. Of course, nature is mother and child. All that is also nature. But that external nature that is around us, that is actually engulfing us. We are only little bits, here and there. In this huge cosmos, we have a little bit. And the nature is also a small bit. But that nature is having a lot of, play in our lives. It is important for us to therefore know about that nature which is supporting us. Yeah, starting off on that line, again, talking about environments, I was just thinking, after you invited me, I was just thinking. So we talk about environment. So there is a cradle environment, then there is a room environment, then there is a home environment, and then what? And then the child grows up and comes out. Then there is something else. There's a neighborhood. So you introduce the mother to the child, the father to the child, the siblings, the grandparents, then why not nature? Because that nature has a role to play in you, right? That nature has a lot to give you, starting from defining day and night, the air we breathe, the water we drink, all of that. So I think it is important for us to understand that there is a value in this nature that we have to introduce to the child as early as we can. And another very important thing I have found is it's a little tangential, but like we say, our own nature. Each individual has a nature, a way of behaving, a way of being, and all. Now that is also nature to a large extent, because each one of us is different, but still same, right? So when we look at it that way, there is our own nature that we have to introduce to the child. So when the child is seeing diverse, a lot of people, different kinds of beings, that is also introducing nature to the child. We don't have to say nature means only tree, only water, only this, it's all of that as well. And how we behave as adults, for me, this is very important, because as adults, children are only looking at us not to listen to us, not to read from the textbooks, but to emulate what we do. they are so smart that they can see through you just like that. So it's very difficult for for an adult to pretend in front of a child, so to say, right? So when you pretend, they can actually see through you. So it's important for us to imbibe that nature in us, that passion, that whatever that we want the child to get. So like I would like to say, as a punchline, there's no point in trying to be dishonest when you're working in nature, right? Be honest, be who you are, and the child will emulate you. There's no point in trying to be dishonest and sermonize the values of nature. They will get this, you will learn this from nature, you will learn that from nature, but then you yourself are not respecting nature. So that is something that our own nature also we have to look at before we kind of interact with children. I mean, these are thoughts that are coming to my mind.
Right.
So if I have answered you, let me know. Otherwise,
sure. Yeah, I think in a way, what I gather here is, as nature is honest around us, and we also get into that, and that's what you're emulating. So then there's no kind of a shield between us and nature. We are part of it, and that's how the child will also then be introduced to and appreciate and respect nature, right?
Yes.
And in this process, I think there are then lots of other qualities that the child may also imbibe, of sensitivity, of respect, of gratitude, right?
Yeah, these are very big words that you're going to start off with. Like I said, unless we are all of that, the child is not going to get it.
Right.
The sensitivity and the gratitude has to be within us in every single breath of ours, in front of them especially. So it is important that we modify ourselves if that is what we want our children to get, right? And only then they will get it. See, when civilization dawned, when people lived in groups, in communities, and culture for that matter, there are a lot of rituals and activities in each and every culture, every philosophy, right? So when people lived together, they copied what their previous generations did. They were not taught, this plant has to be respected, or this tree has to be respected, or this animal has to be respected, right? They saw their ancestors do this. So these values, whatever you may quote, everything is there in nature. 100% what you said is right. But when we put it into words, they should not remain as words.
Right.
It should come out from you. You should be able to do that. Only then will children, emulate the same thing.
Absolutely.
So yes, sensitivity, yes. So the first step actually is to sensitize children to nature. It is important. That itself is a step. Gratitude they will get automatically. Slowly it will come, But yeah, first of all, sensitize them. Take them there, as close to it as possible.
Yeah. So how do we? How do we create these opportunities for children to become sensitive to?
Yeah.
And also for ourselves, for ourselves to have those opportunities to emulate that.
Sure. Good question. Yeah, there are various opportunities. I'm also looking at, as you asked me, I was thinking in my head, I mean, this is the pandemic situation, and everybody's like, inside their cubicles, or having only exposure to those little windows, so-called windows. So if we look at that, then there is a little bit of restriction. I'll start from there. There's a little bit of restriction in that you can only see those serials or experiences online, whatever is available. There is a lot of material available, starting from National Geographic to anything. There's a lot of material that we can show children at different ages. That is one thing. That's separate. Now, another thing is, of course, books. I'm sure Joanne also spoke to you a lot about books. And books can actually give us not only vocabulary, language, and feeling, along with, inbuilt in their stories. It's all interwoven there. So books are another means. And then, of course, if the children are very small, I had to kind of think through the whole, from the tiniest child to the oldest. So yeah, so when the children are very small, then of course you can have picture cards or activities, or again they have those hard books. I remember my own children grew up with those. So then you kind of teach them to identify the colorful parakeets or whatever is outside. Yes, we can show them the kabutar, the pigeon, or the crow, or something. Whatever is around us, ants and small things. But with the books, yes, that is another thing. Now, coming to, let's say, a non-pandemic world, then yes, like most people do, they make an attempt to take children to the farm, one day visit, or go to the zoo. I mean, all of us have done this. I also, as a Montessori parent, I also did it. But there is a little, difference I saw that I want to highlight here. When you visit, then it is only once, and then it is kind of forgotten. It doesn't remain with you. There might be just one 2-minute incident that stays with you. It may make an impact, may not make an impact on you. When I say you, I mean the child. But when you actually are on the farm for a longer period, then the difference that happens, is absolutely intangible.
Right.
It's a lot. It's a lot. So of course, if we can introduce the child to a farm situation like that, yes. Okay. So what is the alternative? I'm sure that's creeping up in everybody's head who's listening. So then one can always create space within our homes. You have a balcony. I think I had a power cut. Okay. So you have a little balcony, then you have some potted plants. Or you can have a fish tank or a pet. See, nature, I said, is not just the tree and the whatever that's around us. No, it's everything. So it could be anything. In Abacus, when I was there, children would go out all the time. I'm talking not about the farm school, about the regular school itself.
Right.
In the Montessori itself, the child is that's such a beautiful program, the Montessori program and the philosophy itself. I remember as a parent of a child in Montessori, the first question I asked is, how come there is no physical education class? So, and then I realized that the entire philosophy and the program is so beautifully woven that the child has to keep moving, unlike in a regular conventional class where they're bound to the chair, like I am right now. Okay, I'm not liking it, but anyway. Yeah. So when the child moved out in Abacus itself, when I saw the child would move out, they would pluck leaves, they would, pick up stones, they would compare things in nature, draw rub the bark, put paper on the bark of the tree and, rub it. And all of those activities. And I remember some very, very brave and naturalistic children who would come into the classroom with centipedes, millipedes, all that collected in the little bottles, little dabbas, very preciously. And then they would call me, Auntie, I'm going to show you something, and they show the pupa. See, those are moments. We didn't do much. We really didn't do much. We just opened the door. That's all. And there was something more for them to see. So these kind of opportunities we can always create for children.
Right.
Yeah, we have to wait a little bit. Maybe till the pandemic is over, they can always grow a little plant in their homes.
Or just sit and listen to bird calls and nature calls.
Absolutely, absolutely. The very fact that there is a sprout coming out of that seed. And then the bursting out into the leaves and how it grows. It's a beautiful thing to actually watch. And children like it when they see it, it matters a lot to them. And then they start questioning and then they start thinking. So yeah, so these are different ways. Each one has to find their own way.
Yeah, I think that's the connection. No, we are so innately natural in our own sense. And you spoke about the civilizations and ancient man, and we are pretty much like that. We are curious. We want to know. We want to, and children exhibit that. We somehow adults kind of lose it, but children, like you said so beautifully, just open the door and let that curiosity run wild. And
absolutely, let them fly out.
And then you see how they connect with nature. And these are some of the, I guess some of the opportunities that we as educators, parents and caregivers can give to children instead of having them. Yeah. So this kind of, now you also spoke about having long-term interactions with nature in terms of the farm school.
Yeah.
So where children, you said, went through this Erdkinder model of the Montessori philosophy and stayed on the farm and got their hands really into the earth and worked.
Yes.
So could you tell us a lot more actually, about the farm school, which I know you were so passionate about.
I still am. That was a very beautiful idea that came up, and of course it was very difficult for us with our education system that we have, so to take children away from the classroom and put them in the farm, it's a lot of risk. So we kind of bridged that gap by saying, okay, so initially the grade 7s were going for one day, once in 15 days. We would go in the morning at about 6 o'clock and be back by 4 o'clock in the evening. And then slowly the number of days that they spent on the farm increased, went on to 2 and then to 3. So now once they went, of course it was difficult. It was not easy because the children had got used to the urban life so much, the luxuries, the need to walk with shoes. In spite of being Montessori children, to walk with shoes on the farm, because it was difficult. And then we had, very fortunately, one of the children who was very, very comfortable walking barefoot, for whom thorns did not matter. So that made a difference. So when they saw that, first and foremost, they saw that the possibility is there. And then over the 3 years, we had most of the children walking barefoot on the farm. Wow. Most of them. Initially, they were all gum-booted and gloved. With wonderful pink gloves all over their hands, walking around, and so much of protective gear. We didn't mind it. But then slowly they came out and wanted to touch and feel nature. See, each child is different. That is another very important fact. Like my children, both of them, when they were very small, I would allow them to roll in the sand. It's something that they did. It was okay for them, and I allowed them to do it. So they had no inhibitions. But then I have seen as a teacher, children who were very, very reluctant to touch anything that was gooey, sticky. No, I will not do. That kind of thing. But by the end of perhaps 1 year or 1.5 years, they were all in that slush together. So they pick up all this. And another very important thing on the farm, when they were there for a longer period of time, see, of course, Erdkinder says live on the farm. Right. That's why I said Erdkinder model. We're not exactly, repeating an Erdkinder thing here. We just borrowed some ideas from there. So we were like trying to extend it over the years. So 7th standard went for a day, 8th standard went for 2 days, and 9th for 3 days. And what did they gain? Even that spending 1 day twice a month was a great learning for them. Because most important is, they learn to live by themselves. For that 1 day, there was nobody, nagging them and telling them what to do. They were figuring out what to do. They knew a skeletal structure of what has to happen today will be told. But then they had to do it. They were in groups. So they had to actually build their team. So now you will see the role of executive skills that I was talking to you about. So all of this came in automatically. They learned. So once I still remember, we had to make those pandals, when you have your support systems for creepers. Right. So I don't remember what vegetable that was, but anyway. So I said, see, all of you, the wood is there. You have to make pandals and you have to figure out, this is the rope, this is the wood, this is this, these are the teams. They figured out whose strength it was to bring the stick, who was strong enough to carry it all the way from somewhere. They figured out who will dig the hole, how deep to dig it, how to put it in. They did it all in their little groups, the 4 or 5 groups, if I may recall. But they all did it. And what was the best part in it was they realized who had what strength. Right. So automatically they learn to respect each other. Again, that nature comes to play. No? They identified each one's nature. This is his nature. This is her nature. Slowly they changed, and each one realized how they could push themselves beyond their comfort zones. That was another very, very important thing, because that's what happens in the urban setting. No? Children don't push themselves. They are where they are. Intellectually, perhaps they do. They play puzzles or something like that. And they push themselves beyond the comfort zone of their thinking or intellectual levels. But otherwise, I don't think children push themselves physically. So it was a beautiful learning experience, in the farm. And again, I will say that it impacted their entire lives, starting off with physical fitness. Initially, one complete circle of the 40-acre farm was a huff and puff and enough on tea. I had someone saying, don't they have an AC here? Can't we have an AC farm? I never imagined farm would be without AC. Oh, so hot, that kind of thing, because it was introduced to them in June. And you know how June in Chennai is. But slowly they learned. Slowly they were running all over the place. And then initially they were taught, this is this tree, this is that tree, this is this name, whatever. But slowly, as it went on, they knew exactly, like if I would say, go get me some curry patta, they knew exactly where to go and get it. Because they remembered. Now, it is not just their physical thing that is building, but it's also their intellect. No? That is also growing because they're memorizing, they're seeing a lot of things.
Orienting themselves.
Absolutely. And identifying that particular leaf, this is curry patta, this is neem. Not getting confused between the two. And it's a lot of vocabulary. It's a lot of vocabulary. Initially, we start with, words that they are familiar with, but slowly we started pumping them with a lot of biological terms also. So they got it all. They took it all. And they knew the exact, that entire 40 acres of land, they knew what is there. All we have to do is give them instruction and they would just run to it. So these are skills, that they developed. And when I say executive skill, yes, this is what it is. How to tend, the procedure would be explained to them. They would all sit under the tree and they would listen to the procedure. This has to be done this, and then the group will decide, okay, in my group, you will do this, you will do this, you will do this, you will do this. Okay, run, do. So there was a time limit. They would go, do it, come back. And all this immediately, when I'm saying this, it is impacting them so much that I could see a difference in their work at school. How our school system is. You know how much homework and follow-up work and whatever work is there. And we could see a drastic difference in the way they performed inside the classroom. So that outside the classroom had so much of impact on them. It is significant. We cannot negate it at all. And children, in all ways, in different ways. And they also, very importantly, because they found the strengths and weaknesses there on the farm about each other, they utilized that in the school, inside the classroom. So when somebody was good in a math or somebody was good in drawing, they knew how to, extend that service to each other. So all that was actually extending into real life classroom situation. So we could see that difference. It makes a lot of difference. And again, that brings in leadership and, all that. It was a joyful experience for children.
No, I can imagine it must be such a joyful experience even for an adult, an educator.
It was.
Dr. Montessori calls these children the Erdkinder, the land children, right?
Yes.
And to see that unfold, it must be such a joy for the educator as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Small things, small fun things that they would do, like they would go stamp on that clayey soil and all that noise that comes out. They would have fun doing all that also. At the same time, they enjoyed, spraying those herbal insecticides and pesticides on the crop, or counting the grains, or whatever difficult, easy task. Yes, they will scream, yes, they will cry, but then they would do it, That is the best part. And even if two people are energetic, they would have the energy to take the entire group with them. Absolutely. So the whole entire group will go with the people who are there. So it was nice. The sense of responsibility was there.
Yeah.
This is mine. This land is mine. So when we had, initially there was this one class, the class which was, in which Mrishti was. So that was the only class that went. Then slowly the next year, we also introduced it at one level lower and 2 levels lower. So I think 5 and 6 and 7. So these were in 8 already. So initially they were not very happy about sharing their land with the others. But then they said, no, we have to allow everybody to come and learn and experience this beautiful space. So they were quite okay. And then what happened is, when they were in class 8, we had divided that land into small bits for each class. So then they started comparing, our paddy is more than theirs.
Yeah.
So there's so much really. Because each class had an area marked out for them to work on.
Yeah.
So it was also a healthy competition. So that was another, very interesting thing. And of course, the most important, if I have time, I would like to say that by observing and learning, working on the farm, going from seed to seed, that is, raising saplings from seeds to harvesting seeds, the entire cycle. Yeah, they did the entire cycle all by themselves. So having done that, at the end of it, I still remember one child who took a fistful of, paddy in his hand and said, so much hard work for just this. You spoke about gratitude. This is gratitude.
Yes.
So that word by itself doesn't actually mean anything, It is that feeling that should be there.
Absolutely.
That should be there. We saw after that children not wasting food at the dining hall. Until then, they did not like the food, the eating with their hands. Everything was difficult for them initially. Yeah, I still remember one of our heroes would use the papad as a spoon. Because he can't put his hand to the rice or whatever was served. So, but then they learned how to do it later. Slowly, that those inhibitions, you can see that all that breaking and a new person, blossoming there in the midst of all this. And then when they realize that this is the amount of hard work that goes into making this fistful of rice, then there was no wasting.
That's amazing.
They were wasting a lot. Yeah, so that is learning. For me, that is learning. Sensitizing, that is sensitizing. That is sensitivity. And respecting people. There might be people who were just wearing a lungi and walking around in the farm, but they learn to respect that person. This person can do so much. He can run a tractor, or he can plow, or he can control the bull. He can milk the cow. I mean, he can bring the animal under his control just like that. And all that is respect. Normally on the street, nobody's going to respect somebody who's dressed up like that. But when they saw these are things, this is learning for me as far as children are concerned. They have to see it to believe it. We can share stories, lots of cinemas, lot of movies that children can watch. It'll be in their minds for a month, perhaps not more.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
And how persistent are we as adults to repeatedly talk about it or show more such things to them? These are factors that they're variables. We don't know. We can't really say that we can do. Yes, we can. No, it's not possible. But being on the farm, this is all this is learning, and seeing those little insects and seeing the value of those little insects. They're very tiny. The lifespan is very small. They know that also because scientifically they're studying, because all of their work on the farm was parallel to what was happening in class. So they knew the lifespan. They knew all of that about little insects, but they also knew the value of those little insects. So there again, like you said, there is value, that very important value, that is to respect even a small living being. It has a role to play.
Absolutely.
Whether it is an owl which comes in the night, or whether it is those little things, or even the snake for that matter. They have had snakes walking, crawling past them in the field. They've seen that. Some were scared, some were not scared, yes. But they were well educated for it. They were taught about it and all that. Yes. So they have seen all of that. And it has made a lot of difference to them. And I'm sure they'll remember this for a longer period in their lives. Because that is crucial, that age.
Absolutely.
So don't forget
apply that to your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and of course, you all saw how they carried themselves at the Montessori conference.
Yeah.
Swayam. So they were part of the entire preparation. They sat, they planned the menu, everything they did. So they had a very important role to play in that. So all of that I will attribute to the farm only. They were, what was those stalls that they had at the conference. All of this they were manned by these children only.
Right.
There was
Yeah.
children who volunteered to do it. So
Right.
they could do it. So children can do. That's what I like to say. Because children, if we give them the opportunity, definitely they will do. Yeah.
Yeah. I also remember buying a small quantity of
Yes.
rice from the
Rice.
Songline store.
Yes. The
So,
stir.
so that's another
Absolutely.
learning. If you'd like to talk about that, please.
Yes. Setting up the store. I completely forgot about that. Thanks for reminding. So there were these discussions. All these were outcomes of discussions that we had with children. So these discussions happened, and what are we going to do with all that is being produced? I said, okay, let us sell. And then initially, of course, the selling price was fixed. And then we said, okay, then we'll open up a store in the school. And then we had to have volunteers. So of course, it was one class initially, and then it was shared between two classes later. So it was amazing. They were able to maintain what is called a stock book.
Yes.
They're only seventh standard, remember? They're not chartered accountants. They're not, wild graduates with BCom or whatever. No. So they knew exactly how to maintain a stock book. They knew how to weigh using the weighing scale that was there. And every time there was a sale, to make a bill. And then the most important task, to tally. This was sold, so this much balance. So this is what as far as quantity is concerned. And then amount of money. So they had to collect all the money and go and give it in the accounts, the school accounts. They had to submit there. So all of that, there was so much learning. And I remember there was a beautiful discussion about how do we, maintain this little shop, because, it was one small shop with a big window. So then we had ideas. Yes, auntie, one piece of pumpkin we can't put in the rice, auntie. So we'll have to give the pumpkin separately. But then we can't wrap it in plastic. So we'll have to wrap it in paper. Or we'll have to ask them to get the bags. So shall we make bags, or shall we ask them to get bags? So these were discussions that they had. And eventually we said, okay, let's make bags. Of course, they could not stitch bags, but we got them stitched bags on which they painted. So we had painted whatever, those kind of bags. And then they would tell you, okay, you have to bring your own bag, because it's difficult to have rice and pumpkin together. I mean, to have thought about it, barely 12 years old,
Yeah. Yeah.
We as
To
adults who've done
organize.
so much of shopping, we still make mistakes. But for a 12-year-old to think about that. And then they kept insisting on washing hands. You have to wash hands. I remember the girls complaining, no, the boys, they come after football, they don't even wash hands, they're cutting the pumpkin, So there was an arrangement for them to have a tap and soap and gloves and all of that.
Nice.
And I remember somebody, one of the children, he saw this so-called organic. Of course, our farm was completely organic, so they knew everything about what is organic. So they knew, when I say everything, not just the fact that no chemicals or something, but also having an organic environment as a whole, clearing the entire atmosphere. So making sure your neighbor's garden is, cannot pollute you, things like that. To that extent, they knew. So when this child saw a board somewhere, a store, organic store, he apparently went and questioned them on various aspects of how organic were they. So an 8th standard child, maybe 13, not more. So he had the courage to go and ask. It's not that he was, trying to show off or something, but it was natural for him.
He
It
wanted
came
to know
naturally.
about it. Yeah.
Yes. And to share his knowledge with the other person if he didn't know that this is not organic, this is how it is organic. Just by calling something organic, it doesn't become organic. This is how it is. Because he knew the exact way of creating organic food.
Right.
So this is again,
So he had
it's
lived
a beautiful
it.
experience.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And they learn a lot from these small experiences in their lives.
Yeah.
So they're not actually small, they're deep.
Absolutely.
Very, very deep experience. Something that they can never forget in their lives. And a lot of learning, especially learning to help each other, have the team going, to think large. That is again something to do with nature. When you think large, when you think only for yourself, when you think small, then you are different. When you open up and, embrace everybody around you, then you are more, into nature. That is, it changes you, the way you look at life. So you accept everybody with their faults, doesn't matter. The very fact that somebody can do only so much, but someone else can do much more in some other area. Someone can be very good at football. I remember these boys used to have so much fun trying to show off their muscles. They would come and lift huge rocks and say, "Auntie, I can do it," But that is what it is. About pushing themselves beyond their, comfort zones. That is what it is. And how they actually worked, exercised to be able to work on the farm. It's not easy. It's not easy. Even at my age, I had to do it. That little bit of yoga I had to do every day so that I could go there and squat. It's not easy for all of us, Our lifestyle has changed so much. So from physical things to a lot more. Adjusting the mosquitoes, of course, insects, oh yes. But they adapted so well. Absolutely. Afternoons, they would just have a tarpaulin on the road. When I say road, it's not a road, with coconut trees on either side and just a pathway. And we would all go flat there. That was like flat. Everybody was down. And then, of course, some children would get up and go play or do something. But then we made do with it.
Yeah.
All of us, including me and Sarod and Sir, all of us, we made do with just that. But these are things, we learn to adapt. We learn to live and accept with what is around.
Right.
Those kind of things are very important. And it's a lot of beautiful learning for children. I'm sure many of them, I saw a few names that came up. I'm sure many of them are listening, or I don't know if they're listening so long, but I don't know. For me, those were precious days.
Absolutely. I think when I read about Erdkinder a little bit, and Dr. Montessori speaks about, children being on the land children, the earth children, and about gaining economic independence, and also about learning about civilizations. All that you've just told me makes so much sense to me now, that they are creating a civilization of their own,
of
right?
Course.
They're embracing everybody and everything around. They are forming societies.
True.
And they are living how the early man lived. And that's
when they started life. Yes,
so much
absolutely.
learning. Yeah. And to bring all that into their lives again, to apply.
They learned mapping skills, we were trying to put their geography into learning. So they learned mapping skills. So they were thrown into the village nearby. They were broken into groups and said, okay, go find your way and come back. So they actually created maps and they found lots of things. And someone came and said, Auntie, we found a house that, the roof was so low that we had to crawl and go in. But inside it was so cold. Learning.
Yeah.
Again, learning. The floor was all, touched up with cow dung and it was so cool and good. Learning. Because otherwise we were very reluctant to even go near cow dung, forget touching it. Right?
Absolutely.
So that was learning. And then we had, of course, a beautiful incident where somebody hugged a little puppy and insisted that she would take it home. It was a difficult task for me. I can't forget this incident. But then it was difficult for me to tear her away from that little puppy and said, no, you can't take this puppy home. The puppy belongs here, leave her here. So this is all learning again.
Absolutely. Maybe, on this note, maybe we should invite Mrishti.
Yeah, oh, yes.
And
Mrishti was always called the nurse. She was the nurse on the farm. She treasured the medical kit all the time. And she'll have more to say right now. Come on, Mrishti.
No wonder she's known as the compassionate one. Hi, Mrishti.
She is. Hi, Mrishti. Welcome.
Hi, Auntie.
How are you?
Thank you for the introduction. I'm fine, Auntie. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much, Mrishti, for joining us. So
thanks so much.
Yeah, you've heard what Meena Auntie just spoke about, and so we'd like to hear about your experiences as well. You could share.
So I think so like Auntie said, the farm program was really something that I still cherish till date because it was so different, and I think I really enjoyed it. So personally, I feel it really helped me become independent. Importantly. So like initially, I'm not a morning person to start off with. So the farm program, we had to we would leave from school at 6 o'clock in the morning. So which means I had to wake up at like 5:30, and I didn't want to because I like really needed my sleep. So by 5:45, when we had to be at school, everyone would show up sleepy, and like mosquitoes, and it was really irritating. And when the farm program started, we were looking forward to it for sure, but we didn't know how difficult and strenuous it would actually be. So, nevertheless, we got there and we had so much fun. Obviously, initially it was really hard because we weren't used to that kind of a setting. Like going out there doing work for 6 hours and then coming back and then attending school the next day. So I think that was one of the difficulties that we all faced. But gradually over time, all of us started enjoying the farm trip. Like we really would look forward to it.
Right.
So in the second, when we started off the program, there were like some of us who wanted to actually bunk the farm because it was too tiring and we didn't want to attend it at all. But then there was this another group of us where we just only wanted to go to the farm. Like we really enjoyed it and we just wanted to be there, and we tried asking for night stays and like 2-day trips, 3-day trips. And because that was the first year, we weren't allowed yet. So then in the 8th grade, we had the night stays, and those were a lot of fun.
I can imagine.
We were put in dorms, and it was a lot of fun, auntie. Like when it would rain, we would play kabaddi in the rain, and then we would dance in the dorms. We would just go like crazy. Even Meena auntie is like, we've had so much fun with her.
I remember seeing a picture of Meena auntie jumping off a haystack.
Yeah, so
Mrishti was a dance choreographer. She would always teach me what to do, the music would play.
So like that, auntie, yeah, like you said, like the teachers too were having so much fun. Like you said, auntie herself would be jumping on the stacks, and we would we would get on tractors, take pictures, we would go on tractor rides, and we just had a lot of fun. And it's not something we do like in our daily life because we're just so used to the urban setting where you just attend school, you come back, and then you maybe have hobbies or classes that you attend, and it's basically that. There's not really enough time where you actually connect with nature. So over here, we got to we had silent nature walks, which was like amazing, and we would also go in the night times. So it would be pitch dark, and and we would just have a torchlight with us, and one teacher in the front, one teacher in the back, and all of us just quietly observing the darkness. And we would it was a lot of fun, auntie. Like the breeze, the moon, the stars, just being there.
And even though the torch was in your hand, you were not allowed to turn it on, remember?
Yeah.
So they had to literally walk in the dark. They had the fear of stamping cow dung, I know that. Oh my God.
Yeah. And then I think after that, for me, I was given the responsibility of taking care of the medical kids. So like you said in your introduction, like helping people and animals is something I really enjoy doing. So I think I really love being in charge and taking on that responsibility because I thoroughly enjoyed helping all my friends. And more than that, I also feel that I was just left to, observe my classmates, like understand them individually because most of the time you don't have their fights and quarrels, but sometimes you just have to not give in to that and just help them because they're actually hurt or something.
Right.
So I think that also helped me like today. And after that, I think all the field activities and all the practical work that we did, which was like transplanting, harvesting, cleaning the cow dung, the cow sheds, bathing the goats, or milking the cows. I think all that brought us together as a class, and we had so much fun because we were divided in 5 groups, and we had to work with those specific people in our group. And I think the groups are also allotted as such where we don't mingle with them on daily basis because in school it's not like that. You just attend classes and you go back home. So over here you got to mingle with more people, you got to understand your classmates better, and then we started respecting each other, understanding each other better. we were always there for each other. And I think that is also why we're still connected today. And,
Right.
that really created a tight bond in class too, inside the classroom. So that was something I really cherished. And I think after that, personally, like my transformation, I like as Auntie mentioned, in seventh, when we were just introduced, the food, the area, like getting into the paddy field, all that was something like we did not enjoy at all. Like the food would be too spicy, it would not be something we eat on a daily basis. People wanted pizza, burgers, and it was it was not something we obviously were really used to initially. But as we progressed, we just didn't care on the end of the day. We just wanted food because we were so exhausted from the work, and obviously it just tasted more nicer because we were like famished. And yeah, and all the small things, Auntie, like serving snacks, buttermilk. Then we were also celebrating the small festivals. Pongal we celebrated I think twice, and we had sugar cane. We ate pongal too, and all that is like not something you traditionally celebrate. Like not many of us do in the urban setting. But being over there, we could actually see the proper celebrations, and I think that's an experience I remember for my life, like entirely. And I think in the classroom also, the farm really impacted me because it made me take on responsibilities, like look at things differently. And it definitely helped me like leadership skills or talking better. And like initially, I was like really hesitant to even speak in Tamil to the people who used to help us there because it's not something I do on daily basis, right? Like I would talk to like all my friends, teachers, family, everyone in English. But I think that also slowly pushed me to just believe in myself, become more confident, and I kind of became more confident in talking to others, and it also helped me like take criticism and feedback from others, which I was not usually open to previously. And slowly I started accomplishing self-made targets, and things were like when they were assigned to me, it was easier to do because in the farm we would be assigned individual tasks as well, not just group work. And I think that was something that it really helped me, and I think the entire program really made me who I am today, and I'm so grateful for that because it's so much of fun looking back at it. And yeah, I definitely miss it. And even when I would come back home and tell my parents about like my experience there, it's not like I could actually tell them how it was. Like you have to be there and experience it yourself.
Right.
And I think yeah, and it's definitely not the same as normal school or even online school for that matter. And I think that's the time I really miss the farm school. Yeah, but it was a lot of fun. Yeah, that was that.
Super, Mrishti. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I think students like you with so much experience are kind of role models for educators and parents and caregivers like us. So thank
The
you.
entire class is a role model for you.
Absolutely.
So anytime you want, you can call them the entire class.
Absolutely. And yeah, that's I think.
I just want to sum up by saying that nature is something that teaches two things. One is the skill of observation, and the other is order.
Right.
That discipline, it falls in automatically when you work in nature.
Yeah.
So these are two very important things that are emphasized in Montessori as well.
Right.
Both order
Absolutely.
and observation. Observation is very important in nature. So these are two very, very, very important things in nature. Yeah,
I really hope. I really hope listening to Meena, you and Mrishti today, we've taken back a lot more, and really, I mean, to understand what nature is and to look at how we can connect with nature, pandemic or non-pandemic, whatever the situation is, and what all we can learn. So it's Srishti's personal transformation that she's just shared with us. There's so much to learn, and all we have to do is just open that door, right?
Yes.
So thank you both so much for speaking to us today. And there are some, I think there's some questions here. We'll just open it up. So one second, I'll keep the comments on. And there's a question here, it's not a question really. It just says, Madhvi Ajay says, very nice.
Okay, thank you.
Mrishti left. Mrishti,
Oh,
stay
she
on.
must have.
Yeah,
Maybe by mistake.
yeah. I'll just add it back.
There's a lot we can actually do with nature. It's a very vast topic. I mean, it's lifelong.
Right.
Like I said, when we talk about the cosmic learning, of course, it's a very tiny speck, but it's a lot in itself.
Right.
It's so much larger than us. No, every tree is taller than us. The mountain is so much bigger than us. There's so much, obviously, to learn from all of that.
Absolutely.
So,
and we're just a part of it, a tiny part.
one tiny one, very, very tiny bit.
Yeah.
That
So
amazement
yeah.
we have to introduce to children.
Mm-hmm.
And very importantly, I feel the adult with the child in nature at any time, whether it is a just born baby or an 18-year-old, I think conversations make a lot of difference. When they are small, you keep talking to the child about it. Look at the sun, or look at the leaves, or look at feel the breeze or whatever. But when they are perhaps a little older, to keep questioning. Why? When we ask questions, they'll ask us questions back. And then the questions can go back and forth, but there'll be a lot of learning that happens in between.
Absolutely.
Why
And
is it
then
like this?
two
Why
ways.
is there a water pool? Yeah. So slowly, you can actually see that learning building.
Yeah.
I personally felt it because both my children are Montessori children. So, it has made a lot of difference.
Right.
And these children I learned the maximum from, my 28 babies.
That's great. So we'll open it up for questions if the listeners have any questions for Meena or Mrishti, please put them in the question box, or you could type them off in the comments.
For me, the opening to Erdkinder was at, I think, 2009. There was a conference, international conference at Kalakshetra. So there was a presentation of the Hershey School. So that was my opening to, farm school. And then I said, I'm not in any way be going to America or Hershey School. I mean, this is a dream, I never imagined I'll do something like that here. So the dream actually became a reality.
Absolutely. So Mrishti, would you like to go back to the farm school if given a chance?
I would love to, yeah. I think I really miss it. I would love to, yeah. Especially after the entire pandemic, I think it would just be amazing to just be there for a while. It would be really nice, for sure.
I'm sure, yeah.
They learned a lot. They learned not just about, whatever we said. Like you mentioned, there's so much more learning left that we have not been able to share. They learned about cows. They learned about how to build cow sheds. There were debates and discussions that we encouraged. So children sat together and decided on what kind of cows to buy. Remember that, Mrishti? We said we need cows to be plowing as well as giving milk. So they had to think and discuss and debate. And finally they said, okay, these kind of cows. And then how to make the sheds for them. They actually made all the sheds for the animals also. Correct? The shelters
built thatch roofs, and we built the shed for the hen and
the goats.
Yeah.
It was not easy. They had to climb up, and a lot of science they used in digging the hole, how deep to dig, how big a pole to carry, and 3 of them would carry that huge pole, remember, Mrishti? And then putting it there in that hole, covering up with soil, and then making those coconut palm whatever for the shed, weaving the coconut leaves together. They actually did all of that. They did everything. A lot of learning.
Yeah, we were basically living the life of farmers, and I think we all enjoyed it.
Yeah. That's great learning.
Being tired, sitting under that neem tree. And then again getting a run back, climb up, climbing up onto the pole, on those poles of the animal shed.
And I think along with all this, we also face a lot of difficulties, Auntie, not to forget. Like we had insect bites, we had people being rushed to the hospital, and I think all that was also important.
That was a lot of learning for me, going from one hospital to the other, spending a whole day at the hospital.
Wow.
Oh my God. But the government hospital, we're not used to all that. A lot of learning again there. Good.
Yeah, I guess as much as nature is not, entirely tangible, I think this learning we can never put, put it down on a checklist and say, oh, this is done. There's so much learning that would have happened, right? And something that I think for people like Mrishti at this age, I think those fruits will appear much later also in your life.
Yes.
So that's
absolutely.
something that, yeah.
It touches you very subtly.
Yeah.
That is what nature is. It is there. Nature is there. And
Yeah.
it touches you, but at a very, very subtle level. And you have to realize that, then that is the truth. So that is what remains all the time.
Yeah. So I guess we do not have many questions. There are lots of comments that are coming in about tamarind rice and chakkar pongale and all.
Oh, yes.
Pongal. Yeah, there's Mrishti, there's one for you.
Thank you, Auntie.
So maybe we'll end here then to yeah.
Thank you so much.
The pleasure is completely ours. Thank you so much.
Mine too.
Meena and Mrishti.
Mine too. And thanks to you, I connected with Mrishti. So, and it was her birthday on the day she got this offer.
Yes.
So she's even more happy.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful.
And hope you continue to stay, Mrishti, I hope you continue to stay as curious and as interested in nature as you are already. And of course, you are compassionate and you will do that, I know. So,
Thank
and
you.
Meena Auntie, thank you so much for sharing so much of your
Pleasure is mine.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about those calls. I don't know why they still came, even though I said do not disturb. But anyway.
That's fine.
It was fun. I learned how to go live on Insta, which I did not know earlier. So thanks more than anything else for that. Yeah. And thanks a lot. I'm so glad I connected with you. It feels so good.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. So we're going to end the conversation now, and looking forward to seeing you all in maybe other conversations in the future. Thank you so much.
Good job. Nice.
Thanks.
Aroha is doing a good job.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Have a good weekend. Bye.
You too. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.